Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime, here at my next TMNT 2012 episode review. This one is going to be for Season 5, Episodes 7, 8 and 9, which together make up the Usagi arc, or the Samurai arc, whatever way you want to call it. I'm covering them all as a group again because I just was not aware at all that the show had come back from whatever break it was on. And I'm at the point now where I just really don't have a clue when episodes for this show are airing, and I don't feel the need or want to put in a lot of time to actually just look up when the episodes are coming out. And just finding this information is just like, oh, it makes it pretty clear that I think for a lot of people, they have lost a lot of, I think, passion for this series in terms of trying to make sure they watch it and do stuff like that, because these 3 episodes, from what I could tell, didn't get very good TV ratings on TV, but all of them under 1 million views. And I think that's just a perfect example of just Nick treating the show pretty poorly, or the showrunners just having a very bad schedule of episodes, how they're airing them. In that you'd think that the rest of the season should be completely planned out from here on out, that we should know what's coming up next. But I think outside of the next episode being a kind of flashback episode, we're not even sure about the exact order of which way the episodes will actually come out. In that I'd almost be like, look, we've got 11 episodes to go now. We should know the schedule, when the finale is going to be, but it seems like we don't at this point. So definitely the just organization stuff that's not even related to the content of this show has had a really bad impact on things. But how was this 3-parter, this arc within this season 5, which is very random arc focused? They're doing, each arc is very different and unique. How was this one? I think overall it was interesting, visually and stuff like that. Usagi is always an interesting character when they use him, and it was interesting enough. Three episode journey. Nothing at all special though. I really don't think there was anything massively stand out to this episode. There was no real character development. It was your basic journey with a bunch of fights along the way. There was even Usagi, as much as I liked him, they didn't really do much with him. He was just there. You had the dog kid, Kentaro or whatever his name was, and they did the same thing with him, of just he's really proud, he's spoiled, and he learns the whole idea of basically gaining respect for the people around him, and in turn demonstrating the potential that he holds. And you have villains, you have fights all along the way, and it's fine. It's the Turtles format coming back into play again, where it is fights and action at the expense of everything else. There was really no, solid character stuff to this episode, really at all. I felt like they had potential to do something with perhaps Leonardo and Usagi, and while by the end you definitely got the sense of those two had a great respect for each other, they didn't really seem to emphasize it like it was this massive friendship, or that Usagi noted Leonardo as being very different and separate than his other brothers. It was just as I said, just the journey was good, but not really special in any way. And that's why it's going to be a fairly short review here, because I don't think there's a whole lot to be gained by going into massive depth in terms of what happened here, because it really was just they walk forward a bit, enemies, they walk forward a bit more, enemies. Oh, he's got taken away, let's get him back, enemies. Oh, the turtles have been kind of taken over again, fight, enemies. There was just no... I think what we really missed was just a big moment where we just stopped and really developed the characters here. In that, I appreciated getting Usagi's backstory, but I almost feel like they could have just used an entire episode and just had an Usagi backstory episode, instead of covering it in 20 seconds. Because as much as I appreciate them at least giving him a backstory, he feels like an important enough new character that you could have devoted an entire episode to him. In that that was almost my impression of the first episode of this arc, of just it was Usagi on his own for most of the episode, and the turtles only came in towards the end of that first episode, and I was actually quite impressed that they had kept the turtles out for so long. I would have been perfectly fine if they had maybe, the first episode and a half just be Usagi focused, but we get his backstory, and then the turtles come in and we do what we need to do with them. The other thing would just be that I did find it interesting how the turtles made their entrance into this episode, with them basically being summoned by Usagi's enemy as like these legendary turtle Kappa warriors. That those were the four that were chosen. It was interesting in that it kind of seemed to hint that, like, okay, in this dimension, the turtles are like legendary warriors that like are actually like notable. I don't know if there's any, I don't know if we're meant to just put any substance behind that, or just like assume like, oh, he used turtle stuff in an anthropomorphic world, let's just do this. But that was reasonably fun. But again, I think a lot of the show's overall issues come into play with this episode of just none of the characters really having had a character arc. They're all just as they are. Donatello is like the worst fighter, so he gets destroyed in nearly every time he tries to fight. There's no technology around, so he can't do much. Raphael's hot-headed, but again was barely included in this episode. Mikey is his usual kind of goofy self, and that comes across to the other characters. He has to make an offering with the pizza, which was funny, but Leo at least had some importance, and it sort of felt like, he was the leader. When they initially were fighting against Usagi, he was the one who was the most, I suppose, impressive and actually put up a fight against him. I suppose establishing that he very much is much more skilled than his brothers at this point. But I still wanted more from Leo in this episode to really show this kind of like breakout of the character. What we got here was fine. It was just, I think, just lacking a bit, just in terms of it feeling important. Usagi himself, I liked what they did in that, like, okay, they immediately established that he's a Ronin because initially he, served this lord, but in the fight, from his perspective, his honor, he let his lord be killed, even though it was just his lord went down in the fight. He survived, so he's gone off on his own, and that's why he's a Ronin. Simple but effective backstory, but I think we just needed more to just establish who he was in terms of his connection with these other characters that we met along the way, and just the fact that he knew all these people, but it really very much was presented to us as just like we're introduced to all these characters at the same time, and we just have no idea about these relationships that are clearly have been in place for a while now. Kentaro, or whatever his name is, the small puppy guy who's a part of this order and has like potential as like the golden child, I think the jokes with him began to really fall apart probably midway through the second episode, of just like, okay, we get the type of character that you are. We get it, you're spoiled. You don't want to do anything. You don't want to do hard work. We get it. That's exactly the type of character that you are. Thankfully, there at least was that notable moment where Leo took over, like, minding him for a bit, and gave him praise for actually doing something good in one of the previous fights. And it kind of helped him to gain a new perspective. But I don't feel the episode focused enough on character stuff to really have got across the journey that he as a character went on, Kentaro, of just like he has learned courage. Basically, what the enemy, the wolf guy, the blind wolf guy, Jay or whatever his name was, what he was saying at the end, and that he basically let them, bring Kentaro around with them, so he would develop into the person where he has this power, and then he would take the power from him at the end. It was just like, yes, Kentaro developed a bit of bravery and is, moved on as a character now, but he still fundamentally is the same person he was. I didn't quite, like, buy the insane development that he had gone through over the course of the episode as much as they were making it out in the episode. But I think if there's any main positive to take away from this episode, it was that the setting was really cool. You could tell that the animators had a lot of fun with this episode. Even the writers, I think, just dealing with this alternate universe of just like, okay, there's not a ton of technology around here. It's just pure, ninjas Ronin, samurai, and so on. You had archers, and they had a lot of fun doing that setting and not having the Foot Clan robots and the Krang and all these other weird stuff that the series has. That they just could keep it simple and have a more, I suppose, martial arts focused episode in terms of the action. And I think a lot of the action was actually very well done here because they did simplify it a bit. It wasn't the turtles like avoiding like hails of like laser fire and then cutting guns apart all the time. It was actual sword on sword combat as well. And while I think ultimately very few of the fights had like tons of stakes behind them, like I think some of them have needed, they were still good fights that were better than a lot of what this series has offered before. So I definitely praise it for that, and just the general kind of backgrounds, the settings, like the character designs for like Usagi and so on. Even the turtles kind of blending in with this kind of world looked really cool in their kind of Ronin gear. But yeah, I think that's more or less all I want to say about this arc. In that, I get why they devoted 3 episodes to Usagi, and that he is this kind of important expanded universe Turtles character who is unique enough by himself that he could be like he obviously has his own comic series as well, and it's just the kind of spin-offs with the Turtles that happen sometimes that it got across to a degree that this is a character on the level where if we just had episodes focusing on him, that would be actually perfectly fine. I'd actually love to watch those episodes, but they didn't really treat him in that way right now, and that it felt like once the Turtles came in, Usagi as a character was not important in this arc as much as he should have been. He was still there and thereabouts, of course, and the Turtles interacting with Usagi was fun, but I felt like they were building towards something up until the Turtles arrived in, and then it just became standard episodes with a new character. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the arc. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on these 3 episodes, and if you know anything more about the scheduling for this show, definitely let me know so I can be prepared about like when my next review is going to be, what way they're running the next couple of arcs up until the end of the show. Definitely let me know that info in the comments below. But yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.